Silence is not empty. Silence is full. Full of answers, full of clarity, full of the power that most people never find because they're too busy filling every second with noise. We live in a world that celebrates constant talking. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a comment. Everyone has something to say. But the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest person in the room is usually the quietest. Watching, listening, calculating, greatness is not born in noise. It is built in silence. A seed does its growing in the dark. A diamond forms under pressure, buried where no one can see. Your greatest breakthroughs will not happen in the spotlight. They will happen in the quiet, in the moments no one is watching, when you are left alone with your thoughts, your fears, and your choices. This is why silence is so hard for most people, because silence forces you to face yourself. When there's no music, no scrolling, no chatter, and just you, suddenly you hear the truth. You hear the doubts, the regrets, the dreams you've been running from. And that's why most people run from silence. But champions don't run, they face it. Think about history's greatest thinkers and leaders. Albert Einstein spent hours alone, thinking, visualizing, imagining the universe. Nikola Tesla walked in silence every day to clear his mind and find solutions. Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days before stepping into his mission. Muhammad meditated alone in a cave before changing history. Silence is not weakness. Silence is preparation. When you stop filling the air with noise, you start hearing the whispers of direction. You start seeing the vision clearly. You start separating what matters from what doesn't. Most people think power is about being heard. Real power is about being grounded enough to stay quiet until it's time to speak. Because here's the truth. Your silence is not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of strength. It is training your mind to be still while the world spins. It is teaching your emotions to stay calm when chaos comes. It is giving your spirit room to breathe. When you learn to be okay with silence, you become dangerous. Because you are no longer controlled by the need for validation, the fear of being left out, or the addiction to noise. That is when you begin to grow. Silence is the sharpening stone of the mind. When the world is loud, your thoughts are scattered. When you are quiet, your thoughts come into order. Noise distracts, silence directs. When you practice being silent, you begin to notice the little things. The thoughts that used to slip by unnoticed, the habits that used to control you, the emotions that used to rise and fall without your awareness. Suddenly you are no longer just living, you are observing, and observation is the first step to transformation, because you cannot change what you do not notice. But when you sit in silence, when you allow yourself to be still, you begin to see the patterns, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You start noticing where you are wasting time, where you are wasting words, where you are wasting energy. This is why so many people run from silence, because silence shows them who they really are. But this is exactly why you must stay, because strength is built when you face the truth. And silence forces you to face the truth about yourself. If you want to control your mind, you must first be willing to sit with your mind. Listen to it. See what it is saying. See what it is feeding on. A mind that is never quiet becomes a mind that is never clear. This is why some of the world's most successful leaders schedule time for solitude every day. Bill Gates takes think weeks, entire weeks away from everyone just to read, reflect, and think. Steve Jobs was known for walking meetings because silence and movement gave him clarity. Silence doesn't just give you peace, it gives you answers. When the noise dies down, the solution rises to the surface. When the opinions fade, your own inner voice becomes louder. And when you start hearing your inner voice, you stop living by the voices of others. That is freedom. Silence is also where discipline is forged. Because in the silence, there are no distractions to blame. It's just you and your choices. It's in the silence that you learn to stop reaching for the phone, stop scrolling endlessly, stop speaking just to fill the space. It's in the silence that you teach yourself patience. And patience is a superpower. A person who can wait calmly while everyone else is panicking. That is a person who wins. Silence teaches you to control your reactions. It teaches you to listen longer before you speak. It teaches you to think twice before you decide. And these are the habits that separate the impulsive from the disciplined, the average from the great, the loud from the legendary. Because when the world is rushing, silence teaches you to slow down and move with intention. And here's the truth. You will be tempted to fill the silence again. You will feel uncomfortable. You will feel the itch to talk, to scroll, to distract yourself. But every time you resist, you are getting stronger. Every time you hold back a word that doesn't need to be said. Every time you sit with a thought that scares you. Every time you choose to observe instead of react. You are sharpening the blade of your mind. And one day, that sharpness will cut through the confusion that traps everyone else. That's when you will know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, while everyone else is still talking. Silence is where vision is born. When you shut out the noise of the world, you finally start hearing the whisper of who you were meant to be. Most people never hear it, not because it isn't there, but because they are too distracted to listen. Purpose doesn't scream. Purpose doesn't chase you down the street. Purpose whispers, and you can only hear that whisper when you are still enough to listen. This is why some of the greatest revolutions in history started with someone going away alone. Nelson Mandela spent years in prison, in forced solitude, and came out a man so full of purpose that he changed an entire nation. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Every prophet, every visionary, every builder had a season of silence before they changed the world. Silence is your preparation ground. It is where you gather strength for the battles ahead. It is where you build conviction so strong that no critic, no hater, no doubter can shake it. Because when you have spent time alone, when you have sat with your thoughts and faced your fears, no one else's opinion can control you. You have already wrestled with yourself and won. That's why leaders are forged in solitude. A leader is not just someone who gives orders. A leader is someone who can see what others can't. And you cannot see clearly when your mind is full of noise. Silence clears the fog. It's in the silence that you begin to define what you stand for. And just as importantly, what you will no longer tolerate. You stop living on autopilot. You stop doing what everyone else is doing just because it's popular. You start living on purpose. And here's the secret. Once you start living on purpose, you stop being desperate. You stop begging for attention because you have a mission. You stop chasing every opportunity because you know which opportunities belong to you. You stop wasting time because you know time is the only thing you can never get back. Silence teaches you to say no. And no is one of the most powerful words you will ever learn. Because every time you say no to distraction, you are saying yes to destiny. This is why silence builds strength, because it trains you to stop reacting to everything and start choosing what truly matters. The person who can sit alone with their thoughts, who can stay focused on the vision while the world is screaming, is the person who wins, because eventually the noise dies down. The critics get tired. The doubters move on. But the person who has been building in silence, staying faithful to their vision, they rise. And when they rise, it looks like they appeared overnight. But the truth is they were preparing all along, in the quiet, in the shadows, in the places no one was watching. That's why your season of silence is so important. It is not punishment. It is preparation, so stop resenting it. Stop running from it. Stop thinking that being alone is a curse. Being alone is a gift. Because it is in that aloneness that you find out who you really are, what you are really capable of, and what you were born to do. And when you emerge from that silence with clarity and purpose, the world won't be able to ignore you.